The iMore Show is brought to you today by Veridesk. It is no longer a question, it's a fact. Sitting all day is bad for your health. Veridesk is a height-adjustable standing desk that's on top of your existing furniture and allows you to raise from a seated to standing position in just 3 seconds. It ships fully assembled and is ready to use right out of the box. There are 4 models to choose from single and dual monitors starting at just $279. Learn more at veridesk.com. That's VARIDESK.com. And when they ask you where you heard about them, please tell them it's from the iMore Show. Hey everyone, it is September 18, 2014. I'm Rene Ritchie, and right now we're going to talk all about buying an iPhone 6 or an iPhone 6 Plus. This is the iMore Show. Joining me, as always, for our annual iPhone Buyer's Guide episode, I have the managing editor of iMore, Peter Cohen. How are you, Peter?
I am well, Rene. Thank you. How are you today?
I have questions, Peter. Questions about iPhones.
Well, we're here to answer them.
Now, also joining us, we have the resident Ninja app and how-to expert, I think, who published something like 50 articles yesterday, Ali Kazmula. How are you, Ali?
I don't know. I don't know if I want to answer that question. I'm okay. Punching out how-tos.
Welcome to the real world.
Yeah, if you were an insider and you took a look at our analytics from yesterday, basically it was just a picture of Ali giving every other editor on the Mobile Nation site a big finger.
Which in fairness is what it's like most of the time. Ali is. I don't think I'm breaking any trade secrets by saying Ali is consistently our most read writer. So take that, clickbait sites. Anyway, super interesting. Yesterday was iOS 8 launch. Tomorrow is iPhone 6 launch, and every year around this time, we get tons of questions. Should I get, which iPhone should I get? What color? What capacity? What carrier? So we put together a buyer's guide, and some people actually prefer to listen to it than to read it. So we try to do a podcast episode that matches along with it. And I'm going to go down the list here, and we're going to talk about some of the stuff that, I'm almost going to break into Bill Cosby there, some of the things that you need to know. So, first of all, let's get the big stuff out of the way. Should you upgrade? I'll start with you, Ali. If you have an iPhone 4, an iPhone 4S, an iPhone 5, at what point do you think you really should upgrade, and at what point do you think you're fine and you can wait another year or so?
I think that the question, should you upgrade if you have a 4 or 4S and you're eligible to upgrade, and even if you're not, you need a new phone. I don't think a 4 and a 4S are going to run iOS 8 that well, personally, just from the few...
Well, a 4 can't.
No, it's cut off as a 4S. So Now with the 4, you're out of date. You cannot use iOS 8. So if you have a 4, yes, you should update.
And worse, you can't use iOS 8 apps because your binary not compatible anymore.
Yep. Yeah. And then 4S, from the early reports I'm seeing from some people, it's not a great experience with iOS 8. It's a little slow. So I would say yes to a 4S as well. 5 and up, the question really becomes, do you need to upgrade? Do you want to upgrade? It's really more of a personal preference, I think.
It's so different this year, Peter, because we are so used to, those of us in North America at least, I mean, I had 3-year contracts, you guys had 2-year contracts, but if you were not a crazy person like us, you just waited for your next contract and got your next phone. But now you have these Next and everything and all these different plans, and I don't think it's as simple anymore.
Yeah, indeed, and I mean that's certainly on the part of the carriers to try to get people to turn over their phones more frequently. The carriers are offering what are essentially leasing programs, where you pay off a certain percentage and then you can upgrade, and of course you give your old phone back to them as you upgrade. So they've got a ready supply of pre-owned phones that they can then recycle and resell to other people and to other services. And you always have the brightest, shiniest thing on the block. And this way, Apple and Samsung and everybody else who makes phones can have a yearly cycle for their products, or even faster than that, and everybody can get them. It's good. It's good that people don't feel as trapped in these 2-year commitments as they used to. It's just a shame that they have to do it by, robbing Peter to pay Paul, as it were, and paying out their carriers for the privilege.
So my gut feeling, I agree with Ali. If you have a 4 or a 4S, I would urge you, if you have the money, please upgrade. You'll have a much better experience. There's much newer technologies. For the 5, I'll go the opposite way. For 5S, I think unless you're an alpha nerd and you really want the new phone because it's the new phone, or there's something specific about it, like you want the bigger screen size, you live in an area that has the faster LTE, you have an 802.11 AC router, you're hard of sight and you need the bigger screen, you're a photographing buff and you want the optical image stabilization. I think with the 5S you'll be super happy, and with the 5 and the 5C, Peter, is it more of a judgment call?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Part of it will depend on which carrier you're on. You know, for example, I found out last night T-Mobile customers who have upgraded to iOS 8, who have the original iPhone 5, which was the first iPhone that T-Mobile officially supported and sold itself, aren't getting Wi-Fi calling. Very interesting. So Wi-Fi calling is a feature that a lot of T-Mobile customers were really looking forward to, because their phones may not get the best coverage indoors. If you've got an iPhone 5, you're probably looking at a 5S at the very least, or maybe a 5C, or just jumping up to an iPhone 6 at this point if you can manage it. So some of it's going to depend on that. My sense is that if you've got a 5 and you've got a normal carrier that doesn't do weird things like T-Mobile does in this particular case, the 5 is probably a fine phone to run iOS 8 on. But anything newer than that, if you've got a 5S, it's fine. Upgrade to iOS 8, you'll be happy. You don't necessarily need a bigger phone. The bigger phones, or the newer phones, are for people who can't live without the new features, like Apple Pay and the big screen and the thinner design.
Peter, do you know, is the iPhone 5S getting, or not 5S, 5C getting Wi-Fi calling?
It is, and that's the weird thing, because the 5 and the 5C are so similar.
Yeah, it's the same processor, same specs. I'm assuming maybe then it's got a little bit of a different upgraded radio in it.
The radio chip, I believe, like the actual modem is the same, but I believe the firmware is different because it allows for more bands on the iPhone 5C, and there's more models of it.
Yeah, so this is something that I'm watching very closely. I haven't seen T-Mobile really provide a very effective answer for why the 5 is being excluded from Wi-Fi calling. So if you're on T-Mobile, don't panic yet. We're trying to get a better answer for you than that.
So it's not really a processor or a hardware constraint. It's more of a, we don't know, and there's another reason behind that, or...
Well, initially there was a lot of confusion from T-Mobile support people. They were saying, the 5 should work, and then they said, no, it's only the 5C, the 5S, and the iPhone 6s that support Wi-Fi calling. So, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it.
So there's a couple of things to break apart here. I understand why people might want to upgrade more this year than they would otherwise, because the big screens feel so new. There's a new design. Whenever Apple's on a 2-year cycle typically, so new design 1 year, new internals the next year. Last year the 5S looked like the 5. This year it looks different. People will know. And some people really do feel that sort of social thing or that status thing where they want people to see that they have the latest iPhone. And some people have just been waiting for so long for a big screen iPhone. So I think there is more pressure. But that falls into Peter's classic want versus need thing. If you need a phone, it's a very simple question. If you want a phone, it just comes down to whether you have the money to afford to indulge in that want or not.
Yeah, last time I checked Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the iPhone 6 wasn't in sight anywhere.
Peter, I know you can't wait to go to Starbucks and get another set of looks when you pull out your 15-inch MacBook Pro and your phablet. Second set of stairs.
Yes, exactly. I want all the big things.
Peter wants a 27-inch iPhone so he can carry it on his shoulder like a beatbox.
Actually, what I've decided, Rene, is that I'm just going to do iPhone calling from my iPad from now on, and just strap it to the side of my face like an old boombox from the 80s. Absolutely.
There was that picture of Alex Doby because Samsung puts phone apps on a lot of their tablets, and he was using one as a phone, and it went viral, and all you see is Alex's head with a tablet larger than his head making a phone call. It's glorious.
There you go.
All right, so the next question is, if you need to upgrade, is there any point in considering something else? For example, an Android phone, a Windows phone, a BlackBerry phone. I know Ali has several of those. My only advice is this. For most people, most of the time, I just recommend go with an iPhone because Apple only makes a few phones. They're really focused on them. You have the advantage of App Store apps, which, while they are as numerous, there's the same quantity as Android apps, the quality is still almost always better. You have access to Apple stores for troubleshooting. On iOS, you can get Google apps, Microsoft apps. You can get apps made by everybody. BlackBerry makes BlackBerry Messenger. Other platforms you can't get Apple apps. Sometimes you can't get Microsoft apps or you can't get Google apps. So you really have access to almost everything there. There's just a couple specific cases. For example, if you really want a digitizer, like if you're in an industry or you're an artist and you really want that Wacom style pen, you can't get that from Apple. If you're on a BlackBerry Enterprise server, obviously you've got to stick with BlackBerry more or less. For Windows Phone, if you just don't like Apple but you don't want Android, it's an alternative. But Ali, are there any other cases where maybe you shouldn't look at Apple?
Well, if you're already on an Android device, that might be a reason, and it goes hand in hand. I've had many people ask me, when new iPhones come out, they have iPhones, and they ask, should I switch to something else? I don't know if I want this. Or vice versa, they have Android and say, should I switch to an iPhone? And my biggest thing is, do you buy a lot of apps? Yeah, well, keep in mind that you can't take those with you. So when you're switching systems completely, everything that you've purchased goes with it. So I think that's something that I don't think a lot of people consider at first, or they don't think about that. So
I would argue, though, that probably people spend more money on, at least by the data, people spend more money on iPhone, and there's more paid apps. So they probably don't have as much to lose going from Android to iPhone than the other way around.
No, and I do see that question, when you say, should you get something else if they're already on iOS, you normally get a bigger cringe from those people when they're like, wait, so all of my games and all of the in-app purchases that I made I can't take with me? No. Oh, well, then I'm just going to get another iPhone. So those are considerations. I think it's really personal preference. Android's gotten quite good nowadays. I don't really have too much of an issue with it, but if it's a preference, if you want to customize and be able to do things and tinker, buy an Android phone. Yeah. If you're okay with not wanting to do that and you want convenience and ease of use, you're going to be better served with iOS and iPhone hardware.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. Like if you look at our good friends Phil Nicholson, Jerry Hildebrand, and the rest of the guys at Android Central, they can talk about flashing ROMs and putting on alternate ROMs like Cyanogen, customizing things if they don't like it. And a lot of people are coming to iOS right now because of the bigger phones, and they're asking questions like, can I do this or why can't I do that? And the simple answer is that that's just Apple's does not provide that functionality. They have very strong opinions. Is there any time, Peter, you work in retail, is there any time that you'll steer somebody away from an Apple product?
Is there any time that I'll steer somebody away from an Apple product? Well, I don't work on commission, so there's no benefit to me whether they do or they don't. Yeah, there have been cases where they've had some skewed impressions of what the product can do or how it works or how it's going to be different fundamentally from the product that they're trying to replace, where I've said, you know what, you should think this through more. This may not be the best solution for you. So yeah, there are certain cases, but nothing really jumps out to me as like an absolute, where I don't think that Apple makes this product that's worth getting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and often people who know they don't want an iPhone know specifically why, like it's for a specific workflow or use case that they've tried and just can't do. That's about all I can think of.
Yeah, exactly. Same here.
All right, so sizes, and this is interesting this year. So iPhone comes small, medium, and large. Previously, that was 16, 32, and 64 gigabytes. This year, it's 16, 64, and 128 gigabytes. I'm going to go on record as saying I don't recommend 16 gigabyte iPhones. I used to not recommend 8 gigabytes. I now no longer recommend 6 gigabytes or 16 gigabytes. I understand why Apple does it. You always want a low price option because that's what gets people in the stores, and some people only have $200. And I forget who used this analogy, but someone said it's like flying in economy class. They do everything they can to make you miserable enough that you consider that business class update. And that's just how marketing works. And yes, I'd love it if it started at 32, but again, that's not the world we live in. So 16, I think, like we saw so many problems with people not having enough space to upgrade to iOS 8 yesterday. And even though things like iCloud Drive and iCloud Photo Library will mitigate it, they'll put a lot of things nearline, so you don't have to store it all on your device. I still think it behooves you to have a good amount of space on your drive.
Well,
So
and you've got to get to that point before you can use it. So
yeah. So I mean, Peter, you have tons and tons of music, but for me, 64 gigabytes I think is what I would recommend to normal people, to humans, and then 128 if you know that you are a huge consumer of local content.
Yeah, absolutely. 64 is what I'm going with. I've made do with 32 for the past year, and it's been more than enough actually. So I'm actually looking forward to getting a little bit more breathing room with local with local storage. I mean, I've bitched and complained plenty on this show and elsewhere about my desire to take my my iTunes library with me wherever I go. But the fact of the matter is, I've made a pretty easy transition to iTunes in the cloud and iTunes Match. Okay, I pay $25 a year to Apple for the privilege of being able to do it, but I can stream and download my music whenever I've got a decent connection, which is, in fairness to my carrier most of the time. So I don't think having local storage is necessarily as important as it used to be. And I think as people get adapted to things like iCloud Drive and iTunes or iCloud Photo Library, it's going to be easier and easier for them to free up space on their devices. But it is going to be a little bit of a transition at first because people are so used to having instant access to their entire photo library. And, some people have thousands of pictures and dozens of movies on their device, and precious moments that they want to remember. They don't want to lose that stuff.
So you're not. So I thought maybe you'd go 128 just because you are the iPod Classic guy.
No, you know what? If an iPod Touch comes out in 256, I would jump on that in a heartbeat. But I think we're probably a year or two away from that.
All right, Allie, what about you?
I'm gonna go with 64 gigs. I bought a 64 gigabyte iPhone 5S last year because I had to, because the Apple store that we lined up for all night had 32 gigabyte models. So that spoiled me. And I started eating into that storage to the point now where even if they offered that, I wouldn't be able to use it. Same thing with my iPad. I bought a 64 gigabyte iPad because I was spoiled by 64 gigabytes on my phone.
So many Shiba pictures.
I have lots of Shiba pictures. Lots of gigs.
All the gigs.
And you make fun of me for being a crazy cat lady. Good grief.
Yeah, and I think that because there's such a wide range, I think, between the 16 and the 64, and between the 64 and the 128, and even though we live in a more online world, we all have Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive or iCloud Drive or something, that you're tempted to save that $100. But again, like, if you don't have that money, absolutely get what you can afford. But if you do, this is something you're going to use every day for hours a day. It's going to be almost certainly your most used electronic device. And if you have that $100, all you're doing is buying yourself not having to worry about, when the next version of iOS comes out, getting rid of stuff. If you want to record a long movie at a special occasion, having to delete other special moments to you. It's a de-stressor for me. So I traditionally got 64 gigabytes. I don't know if I'm going to get 64 or 128 this year. I could go with either. I tend to, like Allie, fill what I get.
Well, and another interesting option that Apple's including in iCloud Photo Library when that's going to come out of beta and actually people will start using it is you have an option whether you want your phone to maintain local high-res copies or if you want to have access to things that are just scaled or optimized for, you know what I mean? What's the word I'm looking for here? I don't remember the way Apple put it, but they'll be
for the
optimized.
Screen.
Yeah, so you're not eating up local space. So you kind of have a choice there.
Yeah.
So for some people that might dictate. I mean, do you really want a local high-res copy or are you okay with scaled copies that are just basically optimized for mobile and optimized to be streamed?
Yeah, so our basic advice is I don't think you can get away with 16 gigabytes anymore. I mean, you'll do a lot of management. You can do that. I don't think you'll get away with it. 64 gigabytes should be fine for almost everybody. If you know that you're going to be taking tons of high def video, tons of of the slow-mo videos that are 240 frames per second, bunch of the time-lapse videos that get very big, a lot of the panoramic photos. If you get that new $1,000 4K app and want to start playing around with that, if you download tons of 2 gig, 3 gig video games, But in that case, you almost certainly know that you're a super user and you're planning accordingly. But for everyone else, I think 64 is fine.
Yeah, and unless you're gonna pay, you want to pay for iCloud Drive storage, and you want to store it that way. So, but yeah, I mean, 64 gigabytes for normal people, 128 gigabytes. You don't need us to tell you that you need that. You know you need that.
For self-identified geeks.
Yeah.
So colors. This year, same as last year, we get space gray, silver and white, or gold and white. There's a little bit of a difference because the design has changed. So in the iPhone 5 and 5S, there were ceramic glass windows, RF windows, to let the radios come out. So you basically have a consistent band, either space gray or silver or gold, around the back and sides of the iPhone, and then these two little windows on the top and bottom, and then the screen. Now you've got these lines that go through it. It almost looks like Tron. And that's where the radios are coming out. But some people don't like those as much. But you still have the space gray and black screen, or you have the white lines with the gold and the black screen, or the white lines with the silver and the black screen. Last year, Ali and Peter made fun of me. So much fun of me. I, like all true geeks, knew that gold was the only acceptable option because it was the only thing truly new last year. I got made fun of. There were Austin Power jokes. It hurt my self-esteem. But I muscled through and got a gold iPhone. And I want to know, guys, is gold finally acceptable, or are you still going to make fun of it?
Peter?
Oh, please, Ellie, after you.
I ordered a gold iPhone 6.
Woohoo!
I ordered a black iPhone 6 Plus. The gold kind of grew on me. I remember last year just shaking my head. I had 1% battery left on my iPhone 5, and I get a frantic text in all caps from Rene, "Get gold. I don't care what color, what anything. No one could get gold." So, yeah.
Well, we had to cover it. Like, we needed at least one gold. One of us had to have a gold iPhone because for the photos and things. But I also want to point out,
four of us ended up with them, didn't they? Ali
is responsible for this. This is I don't know how widely known this is, but the joke code name inside Apple for the gold iPhone was Kardashian, because Ali made a gold iPhone for Kim Kardashian back in the iPhone 5 days. So she is actually responsible for all this happening.
I like how you keep saying Kardashian and not Kardashian.
Is it Kardashian?
Who cares?
They were on Star Trek, right?
The Kardashians were the people in Star Trek, exactly.
They're different?
Yeah, slightly.
Okay.
The booties on Kardashians aren't quite as big as they are on Kardashians, I think. It's interesting. I have a confession to make. The only reason I don't like gold is because of the white faceplate. If it was like black with gold, I would be all over that, because that's the color of the Boston freaking Bruins, man.
Who?
I would have that phone in a heartbeat.
Oh, that's a hockey team. That's right. They have those outside Canada now.
I will tell you, Peter, that one of my friends that works in an Apple store, he told me last week that someone told them that he likes reading your stuff because you're a Bruins fan.
There we go.
There's
right
two
on.
Of you.
Right on, anonymous.
Actually, Dalrymple loves the Dalrymple for a Canadian. He likes a lot of American stuff. I'll just say.
Well, in fairness, Halifax feeds a lot of their farm teams feed a lot of the Bruins player roster. So he's still got some hometown pride.
Are Goldfish crackers Canadian?
No, but they remind him of the Bruins.
There we go. The snap that smiles back.
You're getting gold. I'm picking up, I believe, gold. The ordering system was so late at night. I believe I ordered a gold.
I just started pushing buttons. At
Yeah.
some point, I just started pushing buttons on a screen and saying, "I don't really care what combination at this point. Please just give me a pre-order for something."
Are you sticking with black, Peter, with black and space gray?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with space gray. I really do like the black face, and space gray is where that's at. So I'm sticking with it. If they had other colors, I'd certainly consider them. I've joked before, only sort of half-jokingly, that I'd love to see a purple phone, but,
So would John Legere.
I've seen tons of people that said that they would totally go with gold if it had a black faceplate. And having seen gold on a black faceplate, it looks really nice, and I could see that being one. White is, some people think it's kind of feminine. So I could see a lot of guys, they'd get maybe pushed over the edge toward gold if it came with black.
Johnny Ive had a gold iPhone 5S, and that just means it's good. So, Ali, I got a couple technical questions. So, one of the things to consider, like Peter said, is if you watch a lot of movies or TVs or video games, some people find the white faceplate distracting. They prefer black, like a television set is black because it lets them focus on the content. Other people
Exactly
who read
my
a lot
excuse.
no, absolutely. Other people who read a lot of web pages or books like the white for the same reason because it doesn't look like there's a big black border around everything. It just looks like it's part of the screen. I understand that. It seems to me though with the iPhone 5, the anodizing was a lot riskier. Like it would chip more, it would crack more. But it seems like Space Gray has fixed that. Is that your take?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I think Apple also has the Mac Pros are anodized black too. So I'm sure that, it's a similar process. As you fine-tune manufacturing, you get better and better, and I think Apple learned from the 5 for the 5S, and they're sticking with that same color, so I'm assuming it's because of the fact that it's easier to anodize, it's a better color that just doesn't chip or nick the way, or at least it's not as obvious. I mean, if I look really close at my Space Gray phone, I can see tiny little imperfections, but since it's close enough to silver, they don't pop out the way that it did initially.
So I would suggest, I think most people will still like black and Space Gray. Black is always the best-selling case. It's always a little black dress. It's just the color that people go to the most because anything else you put on it is just, makes it pop after that. So it's very neutral. I think if you want something different, a lot of people will be happy with silver. I think if you do go gold, Peter's jokes aside, it is a little bit of the bling factor. And some people are fine with that. Some people don't want to draw that kind of attention. So I don't think there's a wrong choice anymore. I just think you got to figure out what you're going to use it for. And get one that makes you happy.
The black faceplate, I think a lot of people agree with Peter on that it's better for consuming content because it's not distracting. I noticed when we were trying to get pre-orders through, my girlfriend wanted a silver iPhone 6 Plus, and I ordered a black one before she ordered her silver, and it seems like silver was still delivering 919 and black was not, and I noticed after that all of the black models of everything were the first thing to go. So it seems like black was the most popular choice. I mean, at least if you're going by how long the shipping delays were, because silver was still available for, I think, almost a full day after.
It's a counter-revolution, Ali.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've done capacity, we've done color. Now we're on to carrier. I'll let Peter go first. The U.S. carrier landscape has changed so much, Peter. I've gotten whiplash and then whiplash again, and now I'm wearing a neck ring.
Yeah, so the U.S. carrier landscape is dominated by 4 major players, and these are the same four that we all hear about in the news, and the same 4 that are going to have the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus on day one. We're talking about Verizon, we're talking about AT&T, we're talking about T-Mobile, and we're talking about Sprint. The landscape shifts, but the dominant players don't really change that much. Verizon is still the biggest carrier in the U.S., followed pretty closely by AT&T. The difference between the two of them is the difference between CDMA, which is the radio system that Verizon uses for its towers, and GSM for AT&T. Now, if you had asked me this last year, I would say, one of the advantages to AT&T is that you can make calls and use data at the same time. But Verizon is switching over to voice over LTE. It isn't there yet, but it's in the process of doing so. And when it finally flips that switch, that's not going to be an issue anymore.
Apple's going to support VoLTE.
Yeah, Apple's going to support VoLTE on the new phone. So VoLTE is going to enable you. It's going to treat your voice just like a packet of data. So you can do the same thing that you can do the same thing on Verizon that you can do with AT&T. So that's great. In terms of overall speed, Verizon is adding capacity to its pretty much built-out LTE network as fast as it can. It had some congestion problems in major urban areas and really busy areas. But it's starting to iron those out, and it is getting quite fast, and it's balancing it pretty nicely. On the low end, there's T-Mobile and Sprint. Now, T-Mobile has really come out of last place to become the 3rd biggest carrier in the U.S., and that's because they've been very aggressively marketing their product. And they offer some great deals, some great incentives to make people do it. They consider themselves the Un-carrier. And they do pretty clever things to get people to come into the door to T-Mobile. Like, for example, not charging you any data allotment from your data plan to stream music for most of the major music streaming services. So you can listen to music on your phone while you're driving around or walking around all day long, and it's not going to impact your data cap. They're doing things like making visual voicemail and SMS texting free when you're using GoGo Inflate, which is used on Virgin America and some other airlines. They also have the personal cell spot now, which is basically a Wi-Fi router that's been specially designed to prioritize Wi-Fi calling traffic. So if you've got a Wi-Fi calling capable phone, it helps to guarantee that you've got a good connection, just in case you're using a crappy router that may not prioritize that traffic or may just be kind of bogged down with stuff. So they're doing some really interesting things that the competition isn't doing. Sprint isn't taking it lying down, though, and Sprint's got a lot of money behind it. Sprint is owned by SoftBank, which is a very big telecom company out of Japan, and they're very aggressively courting customers with their family plan and some really great data sharing arrangements. iPhone 6 users, I think, get free data right now. So you really should shop around and see where the budget will take you. Can tell you as a T-Mobile customer specifically, and I have been for the past year and a half now, their service is good. It has improved a lot, but they're still very spotty in rural areas and also in buildings, and that's because they're a GSM carrier, just like AT&T is, but they use different radio frequencies. They use higher radio frequencies that don't penetrate into buildings quite as well and don't extend from the towers quite as far as AT&T's do. So that's why when you're outside of an urban area, unfortunately, or outside of an area where they would expect a lot of traffic, like a highway or a major thoroughfare, you tend to drop off with T-Mobile pretty quickly, and it can get very frustrating if you live in the burbs or if you live in the sticks, where you're looking at your phone and you've got 3 bars of LTE or 4 bars of LTE, and then you drive half a mile and you're on edge. It's very frustrating. Now, T-Mobile is actually doing something to fix that. T-Mobile has bought and is in the process of buying more 700 megahertz spectrum in what's called the A band of 700 megahertz, which hasn't really been used by any telecom providers up until now, at least not for cell phones. And they are repurposing this for their phones, but that requires your phone to support LTE band 12. Guess what doesn't get supported on the iPhone 6 or 6 Plus? LTE band 12. So unfortunately, iPhone 6 users are not going to see the benefit of the 700 megahertz build out that T-Mobile is so aggressively doing. That's a real shame, and that's something that I wish that T-Mobile and Apple had been able to work out, because it was something I was counting on for my iPhone 6, and now I'm not going to get it. Sprint is also in the process of modernizing its network to 4G LTE. It's behind, though, and it's got a lot of capacity issues. So if you're grandfathered into an unlimited Sprint plan, or if Sprint is the only one in your area that really provides good coverage, or if you just get a great deal from Sprint you can't get anywhere else, that's great, but just be warned that your service is probably not going to be as good as it would if you were with Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, at least not this year.
Any thoughts on the U.S. carriers, Ali? I must admit I don't know them that well, so I just have to believe anything Peter tells me.
I feel like in terms of plans, AT&T, in my experience, has seemed to be, ironically, a lot more flexible these days. So not only can you choose, if you're on a Next plan now and you want to sign a contract, if you want to do a Next plan, you can switch between those. If you have people on your plan that are in contract, they can continue doing that. I know Verizon, if you have, a grandfather unlimited plan or an older plan they don't offer anymore, if you want to use an upgrade, or I think one of their Edge plans, you'll have to pick a recent plan or pay full price for the device to keep that. AT&T does not require you to do that. I would assume T-Mobile doesn't have those requirements either, since they don't have carrier contracts anyway. I'm not sure how Sprint handles that. And one thing I think with Verizon is, if you do one of their Edge plans, which is similar to AT&T Next, from my understanding, once your device is paid off, if you do not upgrade that device for another one and trade it in, your plan changes. Like, it goes back up to contract pricing, so your plan bumps up. So
Interesting.
essentially, you're not saving money anymore. So the minute you're not paying a subsidy and you're out of contract on that and you don't owe them any more money for a device, your plan may bump up. So I've seen that happen too. That's an error on Verizon's side, but it doesn't sound very consumer friendly to me. So, the benefit of that is I get a lower plan price for buying a device outright and making payments and you not having to carry that liability. But if when I'm done with that, you're going to punish me and make me pay more for my plan unless I buy another device, doesn't seem very fair to me.
It gives me such a headache, all this carrier stuff.
I know. Just buy your phones outright.
I do that now. Like Simon Sage put together, and I'll put the links in the show notes. Simon Sage put together a whole roundup of Canadian carriers. Richard Devine did the same thing for UK carriers, and we have a lot of people in our forums talking about carriers everywhere. But I know I could get a cheaper rate if I re-signed a contract, but I'm just so fed up with them. I just buy them out. And again, it's a luxury that I can afford to do it because I don't buy anything else. I don't collect anything else. All I buy with my money is a television set every 7 years and a phone every year. So I'm fortunate in my plan, but.
At least in the U.S., it's not really a luxury anymore because it's give or take. They're going to get you either way. So
no, but I mean, I just buy them outright. I mean, I can't be bothered.
Buy them outright here, you get a cheaper plan. You don't buy them outright and you sign a contract, your plan's more expensive.
I don't even think I get a cheaper plan. Damn, Rogers. I just buy them outright out of spite.
Here, it's basically, do you want to spend the money up front or do you want to spread that cost out over time?
So that brings me to the next question, Ali. What about insurance? Apple Care, carrier insurance, dedicated insurance companies. I get Apple Care Plus because I'd be dropping my phones. But what are you recommending?
I typically, my recommendation, because Apple has some of the best customer service, if you buy an Apple product, buy Apple insurance if you're going to buy any insurance. The only time I really go against that is if you're Apple gives you 2 incidents. So if you pay $99, I believe they extended that to 60 days. So you have 60 days after you purchase an iPhone 6 or a 6 Plus to decide if you want Apple Care. You pay that $99 and you have 2 incidents that you can go in and you can swap your phone out for another phone. They give you a replacement. So whether you
over the course of 2 years, it should be said.
Yes, it extends your warranty from 1 year to 2, and it also adds accidental damage, and you also get phone support where with just the general limited manufacturer's warranty that covers defects only gives you 90 days of phone support. So you get phone support for a full 2 years, you get damage against defects covered for defect coverage for 2 years, and you also get accidental damage thrown on top of that. So whether you drop your phone, get it water damaged, anything, you walk into an Apple store, you pay $79, you walk out with a new phone. You can do that twice in 2 years. If you're particularly accident prone, Square Trade is another service. They offer, I believe, it's $99, and I think it might give you an additional year, but you get up to 4 incidents. So people that drop their phone a lot, that might be more beneficial. They'll also pay for repair cost. One thing I do tell people to do before you even think about insurance is if you have credit cards, look at what coverage they offer you. A lot of people don't realize that credit cards offer insurance on a lot of electronics purchases. My card that I typically use to buy devices not only covers damage, it also covers theft, which Apple Care and Square Trade and a lot of those other services do not cover. So if you want theft protection and if your phone gets lost or stolen, your only options really are either a credit card or carrier insurance. Carrier insurance, in my experience, is never really a good deal for the consumer because you pay monthly for it and the deductibles are insanely high. So by the time you pretty much get to where you're paying $10 a month after a year, you break your phone, you have a $200-300 deductible, an out of warranty replacement from Apple is $269. You've paid more than that. So unless you have a need to spread that cost out over time, I would say before getting carrier insurance, I would go without, unless you're really concerned with theft and loss. But if that's the case, buy the phone on a credit card that has theft and loss protection, and then you don't have to carry carrier insurance. So that's my advice. I've just never really found any good reasons to recommend carrier insurance over other options.
Awesome. I'm going to take a quick break and just tell you about one of our sponsors, and that's GoDaddy. Now, we've done GoDaddy ads before, and people ask us why we're doing them, because people have, the Danica Patrick ads in their head, or they have some of the antics that the previous administration went through in their head, and that's the reason we're doing them. I sat down with Midroll when they suggested GoDaddy as a sponsor, and I talked about it, and they said GoDaddy is really, they really are a new company, and they're really desperate to get word out. They want people to know that they've changed, that they're doing things differently. And that's an interesting message to me, because I believe in nothing more than I believe in second chances, except for third chances when I really, really need them. But, that's neither here nor there. So what GoDaddy is doing now is they want to help you put your website to work while you play. So a website works 24/7. No matter where you are or what you're doing, people need to be able to find you online. They have to be able to go to your website. They have to be able to get the information that you want them to have. So with GoDaddy, you can start building your website today. It starts with the .com domain. You can enter promo code iMore 199 at checkout to get your .com for just $1.99. Now, there are some limitations that apply. You have to check the website, but they've unleashed so many domains. There's probably .ali and .peter for all I know out there. You can get literally .anything. I'm sure Ali has bought up 1,000 .shiba domains now already. It's redonkulous at this point. But people still default to .com. It's the thing that if you just tell people a name, they're almost certainly going to try .com first. So if you have something creative, if you have an idea that hasn't been taken already, you can get that domain for $1.99. It almost literally could not be any cheaper than that. So once again, go to GoDaddy.com, search for your domain, enter promo code iMore199 at checkout, and you'll get your .com for just $1.99. And try out the new GoDaddy. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it, but it's worth giving it another look. Often people who have something to prove go really all out to try and prove it to you, and it feels like that's what GoDaddy's doing. So last time, iMore99 at checkout, GoDaddy.com, .com domain for just $1.99. All right, Peter, sorry, I forgot to ask if you had anything to add to Ali's what kind of insurance and where and how perspective.
Not at all. Apple Care Plus is good coverage. I just to reiterate what Ali said, check obviously your credit cards to see if you can get some coverage through there. But stick with Apple Care Plus if you're going to get anything, and just be aware that you are going to pay for Apple Care Plus up front, and then you are also going to pay per incident for those two incidences. So don't use this as an excuse to treat your phone carelessly. Get a good case, that's got some grip on it, and don't be foolish with it.
And I will add to this, what Peter said is absolutely the letter of the law, but Apple is a very interesting company. For example, right now they're going to be selling a ton of brand new devices they've never sold before. And when I got my first iPhone 5S, I had a problem, my iPhone 5, it came chipped out of the box, and it's because they'd never anodized thing in black before, and I took it back and they exchanged it immediately. Now, yes, I was within the 14-day period, but they always have extra stock because they want to capture any problematic units. They want to send them back to the labs and figure out what happened with them. So any incident, make sure you take it back immediately. Also, if you have something interesting happen, for example, with my iPhone 5, I was out on New Year's and I was at a friend's place and he was setting off fireworks and there was a misfire. And the fireworks came right at me and my iPhone leapt in front of me. It took the hit from me. It was like watching The Bodyguard. But the fireworks melted the oliphobic coating on it, so it became all rough. And I took it to the Apple Store, and they'd never seen anything like it before. And they didn't charge me a penny. They swapped it out. I did get a lecture about taking better care of my products, which is fine. But they were interested to see what had happened to that coating. So regardless of what you get, if you go to an Apple Store and you have a real problem and you act like a human being, like if you go there yelling and screaming, they will show you the letter of the document that you agree to. But if you go in there as a human being, they will do everything they can to make you a happy Apple customer.
Mm-hmm.
My experience, at least. All right, so next topic. Man, we're burning through these. Online, Ali, we've got the new iCloud Drive pricing. We finally know what that is. It's $9.99 for half a gig, and I think $19.99 for 500 gigabytes, and $19.99 for a terabyte a month. There's still the $2 20 gigabyte, and is it $3.99, $4.99 for 200 gigabytes?
$3.99.
Yeah, 399 for. So we have that, but we also have Dropbox, which has recently given people tons of storage for $10 a month. There's Google, who can't seem to give away storage fast enough. Microsoft wants to compete with OneDrive. There's more enterprise-friendly solutions like Box. I am using iCloud Drive simply because it's drop dead easy, and I do have. I mean, Google Docs has given me so much storage, and I do have Dropbox, and I use all three of them. So maybe I'm a terrible example. But what do you tell people who are asking you now for online storage?
Normal people, normal muggles that are not you, me, Peter, and first world nerds.
Peter is no, never mind. I can't. Even I can't pretend to say that.
Basically, iCloud Drive is going to offer a convenience because it's completely tied into iOS, a way that Dropbox and a lot of other storage options just cannot do. So it'll be interesting to see how a lot of these different storage services such as Dropbox and Google Drive will tie into iOS 8 since Apple...
Oh, the document provider extensions.
Yeah, so that might actually mitigate that point, but until developers start supporting that, and still from an ease of use standpoint, iCloud Drive might just be more user-friendly because there's really nothing there and there's nothing to really do. It just works. So there's no file system to manage. There's nothing. Basically, you create an album as far as iCloud Photo Library and iCloud Drive go. A lot of people's concern is photos. So you create an album on your iPhone and boom, it's on your iPad. So it makes everything so seamless. You make an edit to a photo on your iPhone, it's on your iPad. And when Yosemite comes out, the same will be true for your Mac if you have one. And I believe they have a Windows client as well that will be able to manage stuff there. So for convenience, it's built in. There's nothing else to download. It's an all-in-one solution. I would recommend for a lot of normal people that just want lots of photo storage and all of their photos everywhere to just use that. And when it comes to document management, if you just want something that works, just use that. If you want more control over your files, you're probably going to want to go with something like Dropbox, unless, of course, at least until Apple gives us a way to actually manage file structures in iOS. You can do that in Mac. Well, you will be able to when Yosemite comes out, but you can't really do that on iOS as of now. So if you want control, iCloud Drive is not going to be it, at least in its current state.
It's all so complicated, Ali. Why is it all so complicated?
Yeah, it is right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with iCloud Photo Library being in beta, iCloud Drive not being in beta, Yosemite not being out yet. I think there'll be a lot more cohesiveness when all of the pieces are there.
You're just blaming Peter. That's what you're doing right now.
I'm going to blame Peter.
That's fine. I can take it.
I mean, so we use we have Google accounts for our email system, and they've given us an ungodly. I think we're theoretically unlimited now for that storage. Dropbox, we have an enterprise plan, and most of us have individual accounts as well. iCloud Drive, I went for the 500 gigabyte option just because I want to be able to not worry about backups because I have so many damn devices now. Peter, what's your current plan? What are you doing?
My current plan for what? I'm sorry?
Online storage.
Whoa, boy, that's a complicated question.
Well, for iOS, just not if we take the Mac out of this situation.
Just for iCloud specifically?
Well, iCloud. Do you use on your iPhone, for example? Do you use iCloud and Dropbox and Google? Just iCloud, just Dropbox?
I use all the things. And really it depends on what I'm doing. I can tell you though that I just recently upgraded to the 200 gig plan for iTunes because it was fractionally more than I was already paying for 20 gigs. And it's 10 times the storage, so it just made a lot more sense for me to hop to that one. So I'm looking forward to being able to stretch my legs a little bit too. Plus, I'm planning on using family sharing, and I know that's going to eat up some additional space too.
I'm going to love it when you have to ask Bonnie for permission to buy the in-app storage, and she just keeps the in-app purchase, and she just keeps saying no, no, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I made that joke with Ali and H yesterday. I thought it was still funny. All right, so next is the big one, iPhone 6 or iPhone 6 Plus. Not since iPad Air and iPad Mini, not since MacBook Air and MacBook Pro have we had this level of self-doubt and uncertainty and wild panic in people's eyes. And I don't know about you guys, but I was getting this question about once a minute during the event.
Yeah.
Is it too big? How big is it? Which one should I get? Which one are you getting? I must have been asked which one are you getting, I swear, thousands and thousands of times. So before we say what we're going to get, because I don't like, I don't know if don't like is the right word. The idea that someone's basing their decision off my decision, I think, is risky because my requirements and my situation is so different than somebody else's. Like, I get the luxury of having multiple devices, and I have other, the things I do with them are going to be different. But the way it is now, the 4.7-inch iPhone 6 and the 5.5-inch iPhone 6 Plus are very similar in very ways. The differences are screen size. One is smaller than the other. Also, the iPhone 6 Plus runs a little bit faster, so I believe it's 1.2 and 1.4 gigahertz, but much like with the iPads, but that won't be a perceivable difference for most people. The iPad 6 can do the split view, so if you rotate the landscape, you get iPad-style multi-column apps, which the iPhone 6 technically can do, but Apple's not doing it on there right now. Also has a horizontal home screen. It has optical image stabilization for the camera, which means if your hand is shaking, it can actually independently isolate the lens. The iPhone 6 has digital stabilization, so it can do post-production trickery, but this one tries to do it in advance, so you don't even see the wobble in it. And it also has a much longer battery. I think it's almost 1.5 times the battery life because Apple there's a space to put much more battery inside it. But so much bigger. So I've tried both of them. The iPhone 6 doesn't feel much bigger than an iPhone 5S to me because it's so thin, because it's so light, because it's so round. It feels, it is observably bigger, but it looks so modern and it feels so light that it's not a huge difference. The iPhone 6 Plus feels way bigger. It is as much tiny tablet as it is big phone. It doesn't feel quite as big as the Galaxy Note 3. I haven't tried a Galaxy Note 4 yet, so I don't know, but the Galaxy Note 3 felt much bigger in my hands. The Lumia 1520 felt like a brick compared to this, but this is a big phone. I think Gruber was right when he said the 6 is still a 1.5, maybe a 1 to 1.5 hand device. The 6 Plus is a two-handed device. So people should be really think about it. And I think, Peter, one of the problems is that we're not used to having this choice in iPhones. Even the 5C and the 5S were still the same size, and some people are just used to buying the most expensive or what they think is a flagship iPhone. And I'm not sure if everyone who ordered an iPhone 6 Plus or is considering the iPhone 6 Plus really knows that it's going to be that big.
Yeah, now some of the things that I've read online are wildly inaccurate, though. The iPhone 6 Plus is nowhere near the size of an iPad mini. So
No.
If you're familiar with the size of an iPad mini, don't think that you're getting something that big if you've pre-ordered an iPhone 6 Plus or if you're curious to get your hands on it. So, let's get that out of the way right now. First of all, the form factor is different. It's a different aspect
16:9 instead of 4:3.
Right, exactly. So it feels different, but it's not not even nearly as big as an iPad Mini. It's a big phone, though. It's a big honking phone.
That's not remotely. That's an iPad Mini smart cover and an iPhone 6
Yeah,
Plus.
Allie's holding them up for the camera.
So not remotely even close to the same size.
Oh yeah, and Allie and Heather did a great blog post about it. They printed them out. Just for the record, I can put a Nexus 7 in my front pocket. I can put an iPad Mini in my front pocket. I can put them in my back pocket. I am wearing the opposite of skinny little hipster jeans, but it is a concern for some people, and I don't want to make light of that.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, trying to put an iPhone 6 Plus in your front pocket is going to be like trying to shove a skateboard down your pants. It's not easy. But it's going to be hanging out one way or the other. But it's obviously a personal preference, and yeah, a lot of it is going to be dependent on what you are planning on doing with your phone too. The nice thing about having the iPhone 6 Plus, I'll say this for it, is that you've got one device that you can use for just about anything. It may not be even close to the size of an iPad Mini, but it can, in many cases, for many people, replace the functionality of an iPad or an iPad Mini, in the way that they use apps or in what they want to do. So it's certainly something worth considering. You're going to be paying more upfront for it, and you've got some benefits between optical image stabilization and the faster processor that Rene was talking about. But
battery life.
the battery life too. Ultimately, you have to kind of compare the strengths and weaknesses of both. But I go back to what you were talking about before, Rene, where my use case is very different from other people's. When I'm asked what the best mouse to use is with my Macintosh, or what the best third-party keyboard is to use, I scratch my head a lot, because it's really kind of difficult for me to come up with a superlative thing that I think is objectively the best of any of them, because my use case is very different. It's like buying a pair of shoes. They're going to fit on my feet very differently than they're going to fit on your feet. The shoes that I wear are probably not a good fit for you. So you really have to kind of base your decision on what you think the right thing to do is for you, not what everybody else is telling you.
Well, and buying a phone is a personal decision. So, I mean, it's like buying a pair of shoes. When we sat down, when Heather and I sat down and figured out which phones we wanted, for me, my personal thing is I don't like carrying a purse. I don't like carrying things at all. And, when I started carrying around 4 phones, at some point, Heather got tired of me sticking them in her purse and said, enough. Carry a purse or don't carry 6 phones. So, for me, I ordered my primary device will most likely be a 6, because I can fit it in my pocket. I don't want to carry a purse, but someone that will, at least from the standpoint of a woman, might not mind that. Now, then you look at Heather, she ordered a Plus because of the fact that she talks on the phone a lot as a realtor. So her constant problem is battery and just talk time. So for her, there's a trade-off there. Maybe she doesn't want a phone that large, but for the battery, it's worth it. So, and it's really going to depend. You're really going to have to sit down and think about, how do you use your phone? Do you spend a lot of time talking? Do you spend what do you spend the most time doing? Do you not want to have to plug into a charger twice a day, which is what Heather currently has to do right now? So, what's more important to you, convenience or fitting a phone in your pocket?
Yeah, and it's work cases too. And a couple of years ago, I was talking to Callie Lewis and John P. from GeekBeat TV, and they were both early adopters of the Galaxy Note, and it was because they didn't want to have to carry tablets. Like, they wanted to be able to do tablet-style work. And Steve Jobs a long time ago said that the iPad enabled a higher class of software, and that's absolutely true. In Apple's case, it's very easy to see because you can have split-view controllers, which means 2 columns at the same time. And that's a holdover from the Next and the Mac days, but it means that you're not going back and forth between layouts. You have a lot more flexibility, and people could make iPad apps. And you can't run iPad apps. I want to be absolutely clear. You cannot run iPad apps on an iPhone 6 Plus, but developers can make those 2-column views in landscape mode. And Apple has done that for a lot of their apps, and for people for whom productivity is really important, and they don't want to carry around a tablet as well. Like, there are some people for whom the phone is their only computer. In some places it's because that's the only one they can afford. So they need a tablet, but they have to have a phone, so they get as big a phone as they can. In other places, it's that they only want to carry one thing. They don't want to have to carry both an iPad and a phone. So again, they get a really big phone because they can do iPad-style work on it. So if you are more geared towards mobile, on-the-go, easy pocketable, you want something that fits in your hand, that you can use one-handed more easily, that you're really just doing that short, quick, interstitial stuff, the iPhone 6 is going to be much more for your liking. If right now you're carrying an iPhone and an iPad, if you're more productive, if you like using things two-handed, if you want to be able to get a big view of everything that you're doing, if accessibility is important and you want to see stuff really big, all of those reasons are like, if you would rather have a small iPad, like if you really have an iPad Nano than an iPhone, then the iPhone 6 Plus is going to be really good for you. But you've got to deeply consider what you're going to use it by. Bigger is not better. Bigger is different. And if you're a photographer, the OIS might sound great, but you have to hold a big phone to do it. And people love the iPhone 5 and 5S because they're like holding a small Leica camera. This is not. This is like closer to holding the sort of iPads that people get a second glance about. So consider your use case carefully. And again, productivity, go iPhone 6 Plus. If that's not your primary goal, if you really want a phone, go iPhone 6. Do you guys have any thoughts on those? After I talked forever there.
No, I think we've pretty much covered the gamut. I can't think of anything else to add to that.
All right, so I'm going to take a quick break and tell you about lynda.com. I love lynda.com. They are the easiest and most affordable way to help you learn. You can instantly stream thousands of courses created by experts on software, web development, photography, graphic design, and more. You can go to lynda.com, of course. You can also go to their terrific iPhone, iPad, and Android apps. And once you're logged in, once you're learning, you can move in between all those things. It's like continuity. It's just seamless. You pick up on one device, it'll go off on another device. It really just works. They have fresh content added daily. They have thousands of courses already in their library. They have all sorts of different levels, from beginner stuff, if you want to just learn about a new piece of software, to pro level stuff, if you want to add something to your resume and you really need to take it to the next level. They have all of that. You can learn just a little bit at a time. It's all nicely broken up into segments, as biteable chunks. Or if you have a couple hours, you can sit there and focus and get a lot of it done. I cannot recommend it more highly, and it's basically all you can watch. You pay $25 a month, gives you unlimited access to over 100,000 videos. You can even get premium plans where you can download courses to your mobile devices, to your iPhone and your iPad. Some of the topics that they're talking about now, they have developers, they have mobile apps, iOS, iPhone, Apple, iPod. The most popular stuff right now is iOS 7, iPhone, and iPad Essentials, and you better believe that's going to be updated to iOS 8 soon. They have training, iPad tips and tricks, create an iPad web app, shooting with the iPhone 5S. Again, they are so fast updating. That's going to be shooting with the iPhone 6 very, very quickly. Setting up your mobile office to work from anywhere. It's just, again, absolutely terrific. And they've worked out an offer for us. So if you go to lynda.com/iMore, you can try all of those courses. You can try anything that they have available free for 7 days. It really is like the closest thing you can come to the Matrix, where you just jack in and learn how to fly a helicopter or learn Kung Fu. It's a phenomenal service. Free for 7 days. lynda.com/iMore. That's lynda.com/iMore. Give it a try. Your brain will thank you. All right, it's truth time. Everything has come down to this. Every path we have walked, every decision we have made. It is time for us to fess up, to choose, to decide which iPhone we're getting. I'm going to start with you, Ali Kazmuha.
Okay, I ordered both, so I'm going to cheat mainly. But my main device will be, I ordered a 64GB gold iPhone 6.
And what made you have that choice? What made that the perfect iPhone for you?
I don't think I'm quite ready for a phablet. Like I said, I don't like to carry things. I hate it. I don't even like carrying a wallet. Most frequently, you will find me shoving a debit card or a credit card and my ID in my back pocket with my phone and nothing else, and my keys.
Wait, you're a back pocket phoner?
I am.
That scares the crap out of me. I'm always afraid I'm going to sit on it and break it.
I have been sitting on my iPhone in my back pocket for years, and I've yet to break one. But if I did, I would know how to fix it. So
yeah, that's not fair. Oh, really? You see, you learn everything new. You're okay with it in the back pocket. Interesting.
Yeah, Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna, sit down on concrete with my phone in my back pocket.
Well, the 6, did you do your pocket test? Does the 6 fit in your back pocket? Okay.
The 6 fits in my back pocket. It comes up just a small bit, and we'll post a link to the show notes. I did an article where I actually have tons of photos in a gallery of an iPhone 6 Plus mock-up, a 6, a 5S, an S5, and an M8, all in back and front pockets. So you can kind of see, and those were based on extreme scenarios where jeans are tight, skinny jeans. So if you don't wear tight, skinny jeans, you're probably fine. So for most people, the 6...
You broke out the hipsters.
Yes.
Nice. All right, it's a resource. It's a resource, people. So sorry, you were saying why you were going with the 6 and gold.
I just don't like to carry things. I went with gold because it kind of grew on me. So I don't want to hear any comments from the peanut gallery.
Hey, who are you calling a peanut gallery?
And why 64, not 128? You think that's enough?
Well, I looked at, after I took off all of my photos and videos, my photos that were stored in iTunes, which will now be in iCloud Photo Library. I did this as a test beforehand. I took off everything that I'm going to throw in there, and I am only using 20 of my 64GB phone. So I don't feel like I need a 128. Maybe I will need a 128GB iPad when those get refreshed. I don't know. I have a 64GB now. The only thing that would push me over the edge of the iPad is because I watch movies on my iPad if we're traveling on planes, things like that. I don't really enjoy watching movies on a smaller screen, so most of my media is on my iPad. Any movies that I download automatically go to my iPad, never my phone.
I don't mind watching them on the smaller screen. I'm just petrified of my battery running out when I'm traveling on my iPhone, so I try to keep my use at a minimum.
Yeah, I keep like 6 power bricks in my bag because I'm paranoid.
I remember a couple of years ago at CES, Allie's like, "Why are you idiots bringing power bricks? Just change the battery." I'm like, "They don't have a removable battery, Allie." She says, "Yes, they do. It's just not removable by people like you."
I mean, back then I seriously considered, I was like, God, these battery packs are like $80. I mean, batteries are $8. I'm just going to buy like 5 batteries and bring a screwdriver, find a table, and I'll just swap my battery.
It's like those people who tell you, Peter, if you don't like Linux, you can just change the kernel.
Yeah, that's right. If I'm not recompiling my own kernel in my version of GNU Linux, I shall not use it.
Nerds. Mm-hmm. All right, so Peter, what are you getting and why?
I'm getting an iPhone 6 in 64 gigs and pumpkin spice. That's available as a flavor, right?
That's gold.
Oh. Never mind then. I'm probably gonna go with the iPhone 6. In all likelihood, by the way, we haven't mentioned this, but in all likelihood, if you haven't already pre-ordered an iPhone 6 Plus, chances are you're probably not going to be getting one. The availability on those is extraordinarily limited. It seems like the iPhone 6 Plus is this year's gold iPhone.
Yeah, exactly, because last year people made fun of the gold iPhone. They said it's gross, and then when they couldn't get it, like, oh my God, why can't I get it? And suddenly Kevin Mitchell is shoving like $2,000 bills down people's T-shirts trying to get their gold iPhones. And this year it's like, oh my God, 6 Plus is so big, it's stupid. Why is Apple? Oh, I can't get one. Exactly.
So, it's funny. I went back and forth on this, and of course I posted an editorial about why I hadn't pre-ordered the iPhone 6. Within a few days of doing that, actually, I was able to get my hands on an iPhone 6. And the reason why I said at the time was because, I wanted to be able to hold them both in my hands and see which is big. I knew which one was bigger. Whether or not I felt like the iPhone 6 Plus was unwieldy and wasn't sure if I wanted the small one or the big one. Since then, I've had a chance at least to handle an iPhone 6 case. And I realized that the iPhone 6 is the size that I need it to be. It's the size that I need it to be. So in all likelihood, I'm going to be walking into the Apple Store tomorrow and getting an iPhone 6. 64 gigs, and we already said space gray. So there it is.
All right, so I was at the Apple event. I was talking to Jason Snell, Dan Morin, Trinity Caldwell, and there were a couple of, I think Andy Anaka was there with us too. And the best analogy I could come up with, and Dave Wiskus made it on Vector again this week, is that if you remember Empire Strikes Back, there is this scene where the Star Destroyer comes in, and we're all familiar with the Star Destroyer because we saw that epic beginning of the original Star Trek movie where it just comes and comes and comes, and it's just so huge. And you see the Star Destroyer there, and then suddenly a shadow falls over it, and you see the Super Star Destroyer. And that thing is just enormous. That's the feeling you get when you see the iPhone 6 Plus. It's like the iPhone 6 looks big, then you see it next to the iPhone 6 Plus, and it redefines what you think big is. And this is mostly just for Apple people, because Android and Windows Phone people, they've had 1020s and 1520s and Galaxy S5s and Galaxy Notes forever. So this is absolutely us being closeted, protected, sheltered Apple people. I am getting both too, because it's a benefit or a drawback of my job, however you want to see it. I think I'm going to be using the iPhone 6 Plus, and the reason for that is a couple things. One is I like the idea of having the iPad-style apps, the split-view controller in landscape mode. I like the idea of optical image stabilization. I don't think it's a huge deal because I don't take low-light pictures that much, but I want to see what that's about. I really like the battery life, though. I mean, I've never had trouble with battery life. I've always been really lucky. My iPhone lasts a day. But the idea that I don't have to worry about it so much, especially at trade shows, especially when I'm in the U.S., and when you're roaming, battery life is just atrocious because the radios have to be on higher just to account for the differences, and you can watch it fall. So just the idea that I won't have to be so paranoid about battery life is really appealing to me. I might change my mind. After a week, I might decide that 6 Plus is just too big and I want to go back to a normal-sized phone, or as Simon Sage calls it, a mini-sized phone. But I like the idea. I like it. Everything is a compromise. Everything has its pros and its cons, its drawbacks and its features. But I think this one is going to be good. And after so many years of small iPhones, I figure I'm going to go the extreme opposite and just get the biggest iPhone I'm allowed to carry by law. And I'm probably going to stick with, I believe almost certainly I'm sticking with gold. I believe I was aware enough and awake enough to order that. And I just don't remember if I reserved 64 or 128 gigabytes because, again, I just hit buttons. But either, I don't fill up a 64 gigabyte iPhone now, so either of those will be fine for me. If I was aware, I would have gotten the 64 gigabytes. I think that's plenty. So that's what we're getting. Did I forget anything, Ali? Is there anything else you want to weigh in about before people make their purchases in the morning? Oh, I should point out that in most places, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, you have a return period. So if you're not happy, I think it's 14 days, you can go and take something back.
That is correct.
The only thing to consider with that is you're not sure what the availability is going to be. So if you're not happy with it within 14 days, if you're going from a 6 Plus to a 6, you might be okay, because I could see those probably not being as constrained and Apple having shipments of those. But however, if you're going from a 6 to a 6 Plus, you might be waiting a while after you return to actually be able to purchase one of those. So.
Yeah, availability is going to be constrained on just about everything, at least right away.
That'll get better over time, right? Like if you're listening to this podcast a month from now or 2 months from now. And also try them. Please go to the store, and if you're not sure, try both of them. There's nothing that Peter or Ali or I can say that is as beneficial to you as putting them both in your hot little hands and trying them. Yeah. And they almost certainly, I mean, if you're listening to this right away because you're buying it on launch day, they'll have tables set up there. You may not be able to switch, but at least you'll get an idea of whether you want to or not. But if you're listening to this a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, when they've been out for a while, absolutely go, even if it's a big box store or a carrier store, go try them out first.
Yep. See what you think, because after all, phones are personal, just like buying a pair of jeans that you're going to fit it in. So
buy the jeans Steve Jobs wore, Ali. I don't know why you make this so complicated.
Someone on Twitter did say something interesting, that some fashion designers are actually starting to adhere pockets to fit. They're actually altering pockets in skinny jeans and women's jeans to actually take into consideration that they might own phablets.
Nice.
Sooner rather than later, you can base your jean selection on what kind of phone you purchase.
Do they make tactical pants for women yet?
You mean like the Anako-style internet tactical pants?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Tacticalgear.com, man. Oh, as far by the way, final note on return policy. Return policy is entirely going to depend on where you are buying your phone. I think that Apple's retail stores are a little bit more liberal than some. The carrier stores may impose a restocking fee on you.
AT&T, I believe, is $35 to $40.
Yeah, so is Verizon, and so are most of the stores. So if you do get your phone and decide that you don't want it and you want to swap it out for something else, chances are you are going to be paying a privilege for doing it. So don't freak out if you're asked to fork money over when you try to bring your product back.
Does Apple Retail charge a restocking fee?
I do not believe that they do.
Believe, at least they don't in Canada.
I don't think I've ever paid anything to. I don't know if I've ever returned an Apple product.
There you go.
See, right there.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Ali. If people want to read all those millions and millions of how-tos and app articles you've been working on, where can they find those?
Every day at iMore.com.
We made special pages for you. So if you go to imore.com/iOS. -8-apps, you can find all the iOS 8 optimized apps, and if you go to imore.com/iOS-8-tips, you can find all the how-tos.
Yep, and there are lots there. My fingers hurt. So, and I'm also at iMuggle on all of the things, so if you have a question, feel free to ask on Twitter. I don't know if I'm on Instagram. I don't really think you can ask questions on there, though.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they can leave you a comment.
Picture questions.
All right, and Peter, you've been fighting for the user as you do so well with your weekly column and with your ongoing series of "Don't upgrade too fast, don't break this, don't do that." It's very much appreciated.
Yes, I'm trying to be the voice of everybody's conscience. So you can read me on iMore, obviously, and at Twitter at Flarg, Flargh.
Shout out to Derek Kessler at DK Design, DKDSN, who put. I did a stupid 21,000 word, 200 picture iOS 8 review, and Derek and I were up most of the night working on it, and he laid it out just absolutely beautifully. And I really appreciate the time and effort and attention he put into that. He is awesome. We have so much iOS 8 and iPhone 6 coverage for you. Just go to imore.com/iPhone-6 and /iPhone-6-plus. We'll have everything there: the buyer's guides, the reviews, the apps, the accessories, the help, the how-to, all of that and more. All of it on imore.com. And otherwise, you can find me at Rene Ritchie. Once again, go to GoDaddy.com, search for your domain, enter promo code iMore199 at checkout, and you'll get your .com for just $1.99. Ali, Peter, it has been a blast as usual.
Thank you, Rene. It's been a pleasure as well.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.